Welcome to MSP Voice, the weekly show for MSPs by MSPs. Brought to you by Cloudberry, the #1 cross-platform cloud backup. Learn more at cloudberrylab.com. This is MSP Voice. Hello and welcome to MSP Voice. This is episode number 18. We have a great guest today. His name is Alvaro Prieto from Auxis, and we have this really interesting discussion about robotic process automation, or RPA. Something I'd never really thought about before, but they have used it at Auxis with great success, and he goes into a lot of detail, talks about it. So something I think everyone is going to be interested to check out, and there are some links in the show notes, so be sure to check that out. But before we get into that, let's talk about Best of Reddit. We've got 4 articles this week that we're going to talk about, and we'll jump right into it. So first up is justifying passwords and security. Now, this is interesting because this person has a new client, and the CEO at that client basically has bad security ideas. Think about, you go in and everyone uses the same username and password at every workstation. Auto login is enabled. Any file shares are only shared to that one user. So basically everyone's using one account in the entire company. Not necessarily that uncommon for, family-owned businesses. For small business, they just don't necessarily go through the trouble of setting up different usernames and passwords and provisioning and all that kind of stuff. So this person now has to make a presentation to the CEO on why they need to do this. And so he's asking about, are there any standards, that they can point him to, and those types of things. And it obviously, as you might think, goes into a very interesting discussion. And kind of the first one here, it's got the most votes, is there's 4 points here. First is accountability. So if someone runs off with all the company money, how will they know who it was if they all use the same password, which is a very good point. 2 is privacy. What happens when the boss's grandkid decides to sext her boyfriend or friend? Does the owner want to be on a sex offender list because she couldn't be bothered to use passwords? That's a good scare tactic. Next is authorization. Will he give you his personal bank account login information? What about his or her spouse? How else can you tell who is authorized to make financial business decisions? And then finally, financial. The company won't be able to function when every machine gets wiped, cryptoed. How much money would they lose while every machine is being rebuilt and all their financial data, invoices, etc., is being rented out by hand from hard copies? So, this is like, basically what this is suggesting is you have to scare the hell out of them. You have to make the CEO understand that security is extremely important. And the best way to do that is to use some of these scare tactics. And so, and then there's a lot of very similar suggestions. One suggestion, which may backfire, is, ask the CEO if he has locks on the building doors and why. And then someone immediately after that points out, well, all the employees probably have the same key to that door, which is exactly what they have now. So that's not necessarily a good argument, because I doubt that they have key cards that are assigned to the individuals and those types of things. So it's kind of the door lock maybe not be the best one, since they all use the same key and they might all have a key to get in. So take that one with a grain of salt. But then obviously, another poster here says, make sure you get everything in writing that they've declined your suggestions for increased password security and that you're not liable for any security breaches. That is vital for MSP. I wholeheartedly agree with that, because if they decide not to go with it, you need to get it in writing. And at the very least, have an email trail saying you suggested all these things and that they refused to do it. The OP said at the beginning that he can't fire the customer, so don't even suggest that. So this is just ways to make sure to CYA, as they say, in case anything does happen. So a lot of good discussion on this one. Feel free to join in. Next up is kind of an interesting one, and myself, as many of the commenters, I think we all read this one way and then realized it was a little bit of a different way, and I'll explain here in a minute. But the post is techs on bikes, and basically this person lives in a city that has terrible traffic problems, that stop them from going anywhere, before 9:30 and after 3. unless they want to be sitting in an hour minimum of traffic, right? We all deal with traffic. So the suggestion is purchasing motorcycles, motorbikes, for technicians who expressed an interest in having them, to kind of do an express service for peak traffic times. And then he's basically saying, hey, has anyone else done this? Any major pitfalls? Obviously, we can't carry much on bikes, but for jobs where we don't require large amounts of hardware, it sounds like a good idea. So myself, like many other Americans, read this and said, whoa, liability, issues, insurance, people on motorcycles not as safe as a car. And that's where a lot of this went into, is you can pretty much tell the nationality of the people replying, because they're, concerned about liability, and especially in the US, we're very litigious here. So, motorcycles are dangerous as hell, especially when you have a bunch of inexperienced riders. And then in a couple of posts down, the original poster basically says, well, I'm in New Zealand. And we're like, oh, okay, so things are a bit different in New Zealand. He says it's only about $50 to insure the motorcycle itself. And because of New Zealand's healthcare, they don't really have to worry about that because everyone gets free healthcare, blah, blah, blah. So, that kind of adds a different spin on it. Is it really depends on the location, and whether or not, having motorcycles for your techs is a good idea. I think in an urban area where you have bad traffic, and you're not worried about the insurance, those types of things, is probably a great idea. Bicycles might be a better idea, just because bicycles have a lot more leeway in traffic than a motorcycle does. Again, depending on your location, and how far geographic area and those types of things. I wouldn't want to ride 20 miles on a bike to get to a customer and then have the tech get there and be all sweaty. So that's another concern. But just kind of some different ideas and thoughts on hey, if you live in a heavily congested area, how do you get to that customer, especially if in the event of emergency. So interesting post, interesting questions, and again, it's New Zealand, not America, so things are a little bit different. Next up is contract and agreement questions. And, just to kind of boil this down, is this poster is, they have managed service clients, and they have an agreement, and they have two clauses. One clause says that they do not in any shape or form guarantee that the client will not get hacked or have a security breach. They can't guarantee that, obviously. So they provide services that are proactive and minimize their risk, and also reactive and security breach, but we not guarantee that they will not get hacked, which makes sense to me. And then they also talk about similar things in terms of backup. And in backup, they offer two plans, one where they verify the recoverability, one where they don't. But essentially, they also state that they can't guarantee that they will be able to get everything back. And if you're in IT, you know that there are no guarantees in IT. Sometimes just crazy stuff happens way outside of your control, and you can't put 100% guarantee on a lot of services. And so he goes on to say that 80% of the clients don't mind. They know their risk and they sign the SLA, but then they do get some that want us to remove those clauses, and want us to take full responsibility in case of a breach or in case the backup is corrupt and not recoverable. And then he goes on, that they're not comfortable doing that. And then I don't necessarily would be either. For one, their insurance company says they have to have it, or their insurance goes way up. And there are clients out there that will take advantage of it and use it against us as much as they can. And then they don't feel comfortable taking such a risk. And I absolutely don't blame them. So he's asking, how do you feel about these types of client situations? Do you guarantee the service? So most people are saying, you say thank you and, good luck to you, to those types of customers that want that stuff removed. And, that's the short answer. But there's never 100% guarantee. You can't unplug the server and someone will find, you can unplug the server and someone will find a break into the room if it sits in and they want it bad enough. So, there's just absolutely no 100% guarantee against any of this. And I think, we all kind of understand that. So they ask about backup, it's best effort. And, a lot of, people say under no circumstances should you ever take responsibility for a data breach. And again, what about backup systems? We make no guarantees that all mission critical data will be backed up. We can just guarantee disaster recovery, and that we can restore all company data that is managed by us to its state at any point in time as far back as 3 months prior. So that sounds pretty good, but again, it's not a guarantee that all data is backed up, just that what they have backed up can be recovered. And then, there's a final one kind of goes into some indemnification, limits on remedies and those types of things. So a good post in terms of, hey, do you want these clauses in there? I would say yes if you're an MSP. And if customers don't want it in there, then maybe you just have to say, sorry, that's our policy. If you don't like it, go find someone else that will guarantee everything, and you'll probably be unhappy. So next up is Msp Insurance. So we've got a new MSP, which is great. They're just starting out, and what kind of insurance does he need? So the business is in Virginia. What kind of companies can provide us the insurance and those types of things. He's talked to State Farm nationwide, which that's great for home and auto. Business sometimes is a little bit different. And you have to think of it, you're insuring your business and a lot of the details that go around that. So probably, the one that's got the most points is at a minimum, you need general liability. You need tech E&O, professional services. That E&O is errors and omissions, in case you don't know that. So in case you mess up and forget to do something. You need a business umbrella license in case one of the above doesn't catch something. You might need commercial auto. In case you get into an accident while driving to and from a client or other business activity that personal insurance won't cover. And then business, property, office, home. So if you work from home and all these types of stuff, these types of things. So that's kind of the minimum that this poster recommends. Others definitely agree to that you need this. And also most people agree that you're probably not going to get it all from one company. You might have to go to a couple of different companies to find it. They recommend talking to a broker. And those types of things, because they can work with different companies, and insurance licensed by state in the U.S. So you gotta to try to find one. There's some discussion on how much it's going to be per month. Someone says it's going to be at least $1,000. Somebody else says we don't pay near that. So take that with a grain of salt. I don't know what the prices are. And then there's a couple of suggestions here. A couple of people talk about Hiscox. So there's a couple there that shows that. And then someone else talks about TechRug that beats Hiscox, better coverage, much easier to work with. So a couple of options there if you're looking for insurance and those types of things. Also, some professional organizations provide E&O insurance, as for members, or they have discounted rates because they get into a group. So look into some of the professional organizations. I know ASCII has some insurance options. So if you're familiar with ASCII, or if you're a member or not a member, you can look into that, because I do know that they provide some insurance options. May not be everything you need, but it may provide a low-cost option for some of the insurance that you do need. So with that, we are now going to jump into our interview with Alvaro Prieto from Auxis. Again, great conversation on robotic process automation. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did talking to him. I'm excited to be joined today by Alvaro Prieto. I'm sure I butchered that name because I'm from the Midwest, but
very good.
You told me I can call you Al, so I will probably do that as well. So Alvaro, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, thanks, Doug. Yes, my name is Alvaro Prieto, and I'm one of the co-founders here at Auxis. We started this firm about 20 years ago, and I have been leading our technology services for the last, since really the beginning. Mm-hmm. It's been a great career here, just offering a lot of different services, all the way from consulting to managed services to different customers here in the region and across the U.S. And pretty much most of my career has been here at Auxis. Prior to Auxis, I was at PepsiCo, where I was running IT for the Latin America division. And I found, running to my partner here today, Raul, who is the CEO here at Auxis. And he was in the finance side, I was in the IT side, and we both decided to kind of join forces and go offer our consulting services to mid-market companies. And here we are 20 years later, doing great, and really excited to have picked this career for us.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so, a lot of times, a lot of the MSPs I talk to sometimes, it's like the tech guy starts it, doesn't necessarily understand much of the business side. So having a partner like Raul, where, he's more on the business side, you're on the tech side, it makes for a great partnership, I'm sure.
It has been a wonderful partnership, and we always bring the business technology focus to our conversations, and I think our customers really appreciate that it's not just a techie only kind of talk, but really bring that business acumen to pretty much every opportunity that we work with. We'll talk more about how we do that in a little bit, but that has been our pretty much our de facto standard, if you will, on how we do business here at Auxis.
And I noticed from your website you have quite a few, kind of marquee brands, that you advertise as being your customers. So, definitely looks like you're doing really good.
Yes, yeah. So far, so good, and been relationships that we have formed for many years. Great relationships, personal relationships, a lot of business relationships as well. But yeah, I mean, starting very small, we really, $5,000, or I think it's $5,000 investment. And here we are, 400 employees later, and doing a lot of different great things. So with working with very amazing customers and multi-billion-dollar companies. So we're very proud of all the effort that not only that we've done, but really the team that we have is really what made it happen for us. So it's been a great ride.
Cool. Yeah, and I noticed too that you talk about outsourcing and consulting, or consulting and outsourcing. So when you go to your website, it's not about managed services. It's not about that. It's there's a lot of other stuff that you guys offer. And so one of the things that I did notice is RPA, or robotic process automation. Which sounds very interesting. I'm not sure that everyone listening understands what RPA is or how it can help. So why don't you kind of give me a little bit of explanation about that?
Sure. So RPA basically it mimics what a human does in front of the computer. So for all the technology folks in the call, they would know that this would be like a macro. Right? But I call it a macro, but it's a macro on steroids. I mean, it's extremely powerful. Uses a lot of workflow technology to be able to make decisions and go in different directions based on the inputs that is getting from the computer. So it's a technology that we have seen a tremendous return on investment for the opportunities that we have been already implemented the technology. And since we're in the outsourcing business, we are seeing opportunities. We started really on our own center by applying the technology to really help reduce some of the labor that is, especially for very repetitive transactions, is perfect for that. And it's amazing to me to this day to find so many organizations with so many of these repetitive transactions that are done by humans. And it's really a waste of a good brain, as I call it. So the technology is really coming through with that, and also it's fairly inexpensive to acquire. So it's very affordable for companies to really give it a shot and seeing the results in a very fast way. So not only is it inexpensive, but you can get a very quick turnaround from an implementation perspective and really replace some labor, sometimes quite a bit of them. So it's a very good technology from that perspective, and from the type of customers that we work with, mid-market companies, some large organizations, it plays extremely well. So
that was you said it's fairly inexpensive, because that was my next question. What's the barrier to entry in getting into RPA? And I guess you said you implemented it in-house first. Was that like kind of around help desk? Was it around billing or invoicing, or?
Well, yeah, sure. So our managed services we have a couple of service offerings, and not necessarily one is obviously on the IT side, where we do everything soup to nuts, help desk, all the way to cloud operations, security, and those type of things. On the other side, we also have a business process outsourcing service that provides finance and accounting outsourcing to a lot of our customers. And we do that out of our center in Costa Rica. So we can talk about that. But so what we've done in applying RPA is on the finance side, on the finance and accounting side, where we have a lot of very heavy transaction volumes on a typical basis, on a regular basis. So we have applied that technology to a lot of those functions, like order to cash process, for example, or processing, kind of those type of things. Now, there's a lot of use cases for IT as well that we are actually in the process of implementing today, especially around, for example, the onboarding and exiting of employees in an organization. So that typically is a process that involves going into multiple systems and taking that resource out of those systems, or adding them into those systems. So we are applying RPA to actually automate that process. Other things include, for example, the monitoring of alerts on the NOC, or the Network Operations Center. So all those alerts, you have a lot of false positives on those type of things. So the RPA can actually read these alerts and then triage it and see if it's a real alert or not, and then from there create tickets and things like that. Many different use cases for RPA. When you start looking at it, and that's something that I would highly recommend for everybody to look into, it really brings the automation discussion to the forefront when you're talking to customers about enabling automation, or bringing efficiencies, improving the whole operation itself. So great technology for that.
Yeah, and now, so I noticed, you have a pretty good blog. You talk about RPA quite a bit on your blog. Is there like a certain set of software vendors or anything, just if anyone is looking to get started, where would they start?
Yeah, well, I mean, compared to other technologies that I've been around, like, I'm thinking ERP systems or business process automation systems, like the old IBM systems and all that. Those are very expensive applications to really get into. But this RPA technology is fairly easy to use, fairly easy to get into. I'll explain why. So there's about 3 different vendors in the marketplace, the leaders in the marketplace today. One is called Automation Anywhere. The other one is called Blue Prism, and the other one is called UiPath. So we have actually, here at Auxis, we have selected UiPath as a great, it's a tool that basically for less than $10,000 you can get into, at least acquire the technology. Is what they call is basically you buy these robots, and these robots are the ones that basically provide or do the processing in the computer, or you can actually do it in your data center using what is called an orchestrator. A little bit more expensive. That's kind of a it's basically you don't have to really push any buttons when you have your robots in the data center. When you have just a basic robot software that is installed in the PC that actually logs in and does all the execution of the different activities, that is fairly inexpensive to get. These robots are somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000, if I'm not mistaken. So you can get into it very quickly. A lot of material out there to really learn the technology, and it doesn't really. It requires some light programming, but you don't really need to be a developer.
That's good.
And technology, so it's more of a configuration type of thing. But when you need to do certain exception kind of handling and certain type of more sophisticated actions in the robot, you may need the assistance of some sort of development, which is kind of like a light .NET development type of language. It's kind of what I used to be back in the 80s, and hopefully people know about this. It's called VB for applications, or Visual Basic for applications. Back in the late 80s, 90s, this was as language that you can apply to Excel spreadsheets and make really interesting things with it. So it's similar to that.
Great. So it sounds like it's somewhat easy to get started. It's not terribly expensive, and doesn't require a lot of programming experience in order to get moving forward with it.
That's correct. Yeah, no, really. The key there is to be able to understand really business requirements, processes, which pretty much a good business analyst will understand, and really empower the business analyst sometimes to move into using the technology to automate those processes. So it's a pretty easy system to get into, like I said earlier, compared to others. There's always something, of course. We have run into lot of complex kind of things and we have a really excellent team here at Auxis that does really amazing RPA implementations, which have grown quite a bit and matured quite a bit. I mean, we started on this about 3 years ago, and now we're doing pretty complex things with it that are really more in the development side. But to begin with, I think lightweight type of development, some business analysis skills and some basic configuration, technology configuration skills would suffice. No?
Great. Now, can you plug this in? So, like, if you're using remote monitoring and management or professional services automation, can you plug this into those to help kind of automate some of those tasks as well?
Yes, Doug. So pretty much anybody, anything that you will see in front of your computer, right? Anything you would do with a mouse and your keyboard, entry forms, anything, any software, basically this overlays that screen.
Gotcha. Okay.
It mimics what a person would be doing. So any mouse clicks, any tabs, any kind of data entry stuff, that it basically does that. So it can work on it doesn't have any particular dependency of any system at all. So it's like an all macro, right? It just
it sounds exactly like a macro.
The macros basically only work in Excel and Word and things like that, but this can go about multiple systems, and that's another beauty of it, that you can go from a Windows-based system to a green screen system. And take data, for example, from a green screen system and bring it into a Windows-based. So it's kind of like I call it an interface in some cases. Yeah. You basically can run a query from one system, take the data, bring it into another system. So in effect, you're creating an interface at a fraction of the cost it will take you to develop it, right? Okay. Some of the advantages of it. Like I said, once you get into it and some of the audience, they're interested on it, they start looking into it, and I call the light bulb goes on and you see, oh my God, I can do all these things with this thing. It's pretty amazing. So that's where you start really getting into some interesting use cases for it.
Cool. So another thing I want to talk to you about is your Nearshore Outsourcing.
Sure.
You talk about it on your website. You have a big center in Costa Rica.
Correct.
And you had mentioned that kind of so.
Yeah.
Help me understand. Why the decision to outsource and how that's working out for you.
Absolutely. So we back in 2005, as a request of our customers, we started into the outsourcing business, really helping them improve their IT operations using the ITIL framework, the ITIL framework. I thought that was the holy grail of IT, as I typically call it, because it really shows how you can really deliver good services in a very structured, disciplined, process kind of oriented way. So we adopted ITIL, and our customers started outsourcing our services, and they wanted us to implement these models for them and get them to a higher maturity level in IT operations and service management. And late in the 2009 or so, one of our customers really wanted to leverage labor arbitrage savings. They wanted to really basically take the same team, but reduce their labor by doing it sometime offshore. But they didn't really want to go to India or those kind of far places. Yeah. And us being here in Fort Lauderdale and in South Florida in general, very close to Latin America, a lot of our companies really have a Latin background, Latin flavor. I'm from Colombia myself, and we travel all over Latin America all our lives. Found that Costa Rica being a great location for outsourcing. Actually, Costa Rica in the 40s abolished their army and took a lot of that money and invested into their own country for expanding the roads and bringing, attracting, foreign talent or foreign organizations. And it started with Intel, who actually came and started their own Pentium processor plan. Actually, was developed in Costa Rica, and from there, a lot of companies, big multinationals, started to follow in Costa Rica. So also Costa Rica, you find the highest number of English-speaking people in Latin America. For us, being a company that is outsourcing to U.S.-based customers, English was absolutely a must. Yeah. And also, Costa Rica is the cultural affinity that Costa Rica has with the U.S. is extremely high. I mean, you go and you walk in the halls and you see NFL, course, and people with the U.S. kind of music. So it's a very Americanized country. You really feel you're literally in the U.S. It's as close to a U.S. experience as I have seen in any country in Latin America myself. So, so we picked Costa Rica as an experiment. We started with 3 people, just kind of test the waters and see how it will work out. It was 3 engineers, actually, a network and a server engineer, a couple of folks in each, and it was 3. And you know, if you fast forward that to today, we have close to 400 people there today.
Wow.
And really pretty much delivering 100% of the customers are US-based customers. So it's been a great experience working with the Ticos, or Costa Ricans. And we are actually looking to continue our expansion in the country by opening another center.
Wow.
Perhaps extending into other areas in Latin America as well.
Yeah, and I know one of the things too, like Costa Rica, it's for the U.S., it's Central Time Zone.
It is Central Time Zone. It's very short it's a close flight to from Miami. It's a 2.5-hour flight.
Yeah.
So pretty much you can fly from New York directly into Costa Rica. There's multiple direct flights into San Jose. So and you know, a lot of people really know Costa Rica, especially Americans, from the ecotourism and well, more of, they don't look at it from a business perspective a lot. But it's pretty amazing the amount of parks or business parks they have in the country, with the the who and who of American companies really have operations in that country today. Cool. So it's been a great success for us, and our customers really love working with the Costa Rica resources that they interface with on a daily basis.
That's great. I have not been to Costa Rica myself.
No?
Maybe someday I'll make it there.
Highly recommend it. You know?
And I'll try to get off the beach and check out the towns and you know, explore it a little bit more than just hanging on the beach. So
it's from an ecotourism perspective, it's a wonderful country. They really done an amazing job on making that the real. It's a major source of income for the country. I mean, almost more foreigners in Costa Rica than Costa Ricans.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends who've been there and they love it. They say great things about it. So one of these days, you know, I'll just book a flight and head on down.
Highly recommended. Just let us know when you go. You know?
Will do. So, you know, one of the other things, and, you know, again, a lot of the MSPs that I talk to on this, or, you know, managed service providers, they're smaller than you, right? They don't have anywhere close to 400 people anywhere, you know, let alone in an outsource center. But, you know, I guess one of the other questions is from a getting business standpoint, right? And think back to when you started, you know, how did you advertise? Was it just kind of relationship based and word of mouth, or, you know, do you actually put a lot of effort into advertising your services, and you know, what kind of venues do you use to do that?
Yeah, well, we really started as a typical relationship based business, at least from my experience. The biggest customers that we really have come from our own personal relationships that we've been able to develop here in this town and in other places, or through referrals. Of course, word of mouth is very important. So we work a lot in that way, with not a lot of number of customers, large number of customers at the beginning. Really working what we would call core accounts that would feed us a lot of work from a consulting perspective, and keep in mind that we started as a consulting organization. Yeah. Our outsourcing business really came a little bit later. So we have been able to develop a lot of those relationships with our, you know, and that's been a very important thing for our business. We have customers that have been with us for 15 years, you know, or more, and we're still doing a lot of work for them. But, you know, we used to be proud of saying that we were the best kept secret in town, which not necessarily from a business growth perspective is not good. Yeah. So we started investing more into our marketing resources, and really going out there into you know, public speaking opportunities that we go and talk about our firm. About now, if you fast forward to today, I mean, we are night and day where we were before in terms of marketing. and have a great team here that help us really put the word out there through a lot of inbound marketing techniques in terms of blogging and writing a lot of different content materials, webinars and things like that. So that's kind of what we are today. But back in the day, I mean, when we started, I mean, we didn't have social media, didn't exist.
Yeah.
So it was just a lot of emails and that. But I mean, I think if anybody wanted to start today, definitely leveraging social media will be a massive. It's a great opportunity to really put out there and be known for the type of things that you're passionate about and you truly believe on. So social media is obviously very important for us. Webinars, like I said, public speaking to me is one of the most effective ways that you can really get people to know you fairly quickly. And working with different groups here in the U.S. To go and have those kind of opportunities to speak. Right.
Yeah. So what kind of venues do you typically get speaking opportunities at? Is it industry events, trade shows? I guess.
Yeah.
What's your
industry events? I mean, like our firm is really half is let's say business related, the other half is really technology related. So from a business perspective, really any events that are CFO base, where we see a lot of, because we sell to C-level officers typically.
Yeah. Okay.
So CFO type of events, the international outsourcing professionals, the AOP is.
Okay.
It's a venue we speak quite a bit on those events in the past, and lately I've been speaking on the mid-market enterprise summit. They have different venues across the country where we go and speak in front of a lot of CIOs about RPA, for example, or things that could be interesting, or the business of IT, as I call it, or the modern IT organization. Some topics around those things, but yeah, those are the type of venues that we typically hang out. Very industry specific, some retail specific events that we've done, which we do quite a bit of work in the retail industry.
Okay.
So there's some of those more industry related.
Yeah, that's great, because one of the things I always I kind of like is the more you can get yourself out there and get yourself exposure. The better it is. And, like you said, being able to go out and do public speaking, being on social media, blogging, even if you're just a one-man shop or one-person shop, the more that you can kind of get your name out there and get yourself out there, the better. So
no doubt about it. I mean, and today, with the amount of access that we have to these type of things like video conferencing and really being out there in pretty much on social media, like I said, or doing webinars, just developing content and being and researching on new technologies and really educating. A lot of MSP work in many ways at the beginning is an educational process. Really, you really need to sell the real value. It's not like you're taking orders. It's a long selling process in some cases. And you really have to, because our focus is always to move from people-centric organization to a services-centric organization. So that is a transformation in itself. So that really requires some education a lot of cases, to really help the customer really understand the true value of going into these kind of services. And it's great for me personally to hear once they make the transformation, when they tell us, and I should have done this 3 years ago. Where were you?
Yeah, no, it's always hindsight's 2020, right? Should have done this a long time ago. So speaking about technology, whether it's business related or consumer related, what technologies are you most excited about today? Whether it's like stuff on the horizon, it's upcoming, what gets you excited?
Well, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, which is RPA. I mean, I'm very excited about the technology. I mean, in all the years I've been around, I mean, it's almost 30 years now, is one of these technologies that I have seen that it really delivers the value that it promises. Right?
Okay.
and it does it in a very cost-effective way, which is also very important. I mean, there's a lot of technologies out there, and CIOs, and I don't blame them, they're skeptical of adopting anything new because the cost of change is significant in some cases, right? They hire the price on the software, the technology, they hire the change, right? The bigger the change, and that typically end up costing quite a bit more money than they anticipated.
Yeah.
So in this technology, it's fairly non-intrusive, and it's easy, it's lightweight, and it's very powerful, right? When you start thinking about it. I think 60 Minutes actually did a section on this about automation. McKinsey, for example, believes that 53% of the U.S. workforce could be automated by 2025. I mean, it's a little crazy, but there are some big numbers out there that are really, showing that we are doing a lot of things fairly inefficient when it comes to back office processes. So I think technology, I'm very excited because there's, I think, and we're just on the early stages. Obviously, the next step on this is going to be machine learning and AI. I think that these technologies, once you start really understanding the patterns of how a person really does their regular work, they will start programming almost themselves by learning those type of things. For example, the RPA has a learning module. So basically, it basically records everything that a person does in front of the computer. What it doesn't record is when you actually run into some sort of exception and doesn't know what to do with it. That's where you have to have somebody to go on and program it the right way, or configure it the right way. That is, but in the future, I can see a lot of these machine learning and AI is coming into RPA to really start automating what is called knowledge work, right? So I'm pretty excited. I think that's going to be a massive change from a technology. And the thing is that this technology is not necessarily an IT project; it's more of a business initiative, which I love when there's business. The business is driving these kind of decisions. Coming with technology, kind of cool stuff to do. Other technologies that I think are interesting is mostly in the security space, and it's also related to AI and machine learning, which is these technologies that are, I mean, security is a massive issue for a lot of companies, and I think it's continue to grow and become more of a bigger issue for organizations that are not really doing much about it today. But there are some technologies out there that are really are using machine learning to understand pattern recognition, be able to stop different things from happening. Because when you actually manage a security operation, I mean, you're getting millions of events almost on a regular basis. It's mind-boggling the amount of events that you have to process, and this technology really helps on that type of things, using technologies like Watson, right? IBM Watson. IBM is doing a great job with their Watson, and it's starting to get into very interesting applications for different industry segments, right? So I think using Watson in the security space is going to be a big deal in the future. So I've been looking at it and been kind of paying attention to it and see kind of how it develops. But more to us, on the RPA business, I think I'm very excited about AI. I mean, AI I was taught, artificial intelligence in college in the 80s with this prologue, I think it was called, but nothing, it didn't go anywhere, right? And now it's really happening. So I think, those are kind of some of the key technologies that I'm keeping an eye on right now.
Okay. What about any technology that has you worried?
That has me worried? Well, I'm worried about the same, actually, because, talking about on some security folks here, the crooks are really getting into machine learning as well. So they are trying to outsmart some of the technologies that are trying to stop them, right? So I'm kind of, this same technology, if it's on the wrong hands, just like almost everything, pretty dangerous. And hackers, are pretty smart. I mean, if I don't have to tell you all the crazy things that they're doing out there, and that you hear of how they penetrate in these impenetrable systems that they call, right? But they're getting very smart about it. So I'm actually worried about that. I mean, I've been worried about how that's going to impact us and how, the IT professionals are going to react to those kind of type of things. But yeah, I'm worried about it. I mean, there's some other technologies that I think are getting phased out. That all these whole big ERP systems, I think, are getting phased out in a good way. Very expensive to manage, and I think cloud ERP solutions that are fairly lightweight with tremendous capabilities are coming in. But I mean, if I would say worried from I would say the first thing that comes to mind is this machine learning from that the crooks are actually using. That's the Chinese are kind of getting ahead of the game on that one.
Yeah, and it's kind of common. I've talked several interviews. A lot of times the technology they're most excited about is also kind of some of the same stuff that they're worried about, especially from the security standpoint, like you mentioned, and the bad guys getting access to it. So
yes, yeah, I think that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye very closely, and it's going to potentially give us a lot of work to help companies really defend themselves around these type of things.
Yeah,
it's going to take a big effort.
Okay, well, it is now time to start wrapping things up, and that means it's time for our rapid fire round.
Okay.
So it's just a couple of quick questions, yes, no, one answer to the other. Don't put a lot of thought into it. First thing that comes to your mind. It's really easy. You ready?
I'm ready. Go ahead.
All right.
Shoot.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Okay. Mac, Linux, or Windows?
Linux.
Okay. Amazon or Azure or something else?
I said Amazon.
Okay. Local backups, cloud, or both?
Cloud.
Okay. In networking problems, is DNS always to blame?
Not really.
Okay. Should you always virtualize, yes or no?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then, think back to, previous days, which is worse, printer support or vendor cold calls?
Golly. Printer support.
Printer support's worse. Okay. See, that was pretty painless. So,
Yeah.
just like to throw some. Well, you have certainly opened my eyes to robotic process automation / RPA. I'll be sure to include some links in the show notes, and if you've got any, definitely shoot them my way so I can put them in there to share with the audience. It's been a great discussion. Before we wrap things up, anything else you want to kind of let people know about, or words of wisdom?
Yeah, absolutely. If they're interested in RPA, we actually have we conducted a survey with a lot of companies, 100 and some companies, where the results are in our website. So if anybody's interested in understanding where is RPA today, this survey really provides a really good insight on what's going on in the industry with the technology and so on. So I highly recommend people to go in and download the survey results. But yeah, if anything, be happy to help on any kind of way, and any advice for the newcomers into the industry. I'd be more than happy to assist. And probably get my email there, my number sometime. But yeah, I'm here to help.
Great. So if you have, again, if you're listening, check out the show notes. There'll be some information there to check that out. Alvaro, thank you so much. It's been great, and it's been very educational for me, and I hope for our audience too.
Thank you, Doc, and thanks everybody.
All right, have a great day.
Hey, you too. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.